Did you hit it?
I did. This is where we play the video. Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. It is a Tuesday edition of the show. I want to welcome in all the Pewter people that are just joining the chat as we get this show off the ground. And speaking of the ground, we're going to be talking about the ground game today. We got to speak to the Bucs offensive coaches, and while we spoke about the passing game yesterday, today is all about running the football, toting the rock, as they say, and how the Bucs can get better in an area where they've struggled, particularly over the last two seasons. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, Scott Reynolds, SR. Scott, let's get into the running game because, boy, it does need improvements this season.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go but up when you're dead last in the league over the last couple of years. So this isn't even like a new thing. And, we talked a little bit about yesterday, Matt, and one of the things that I really like that Liam Cohen's doing is even though the off-season program with the OTAs, you're not allowed to have contact, there's no pads, it's basically flag football season. Not just in Tampa Bay, but around the league in the offseason, thanks to the collective bargaining agreement. Well, that lends itself to the passing game. And I think that's maybe why the Buccaneers have been so good throwing the ball is because they put so much emphasis on it. And I don't want to say that they waited until training camp to really address it in years past, but without really having the physicality of the offensive line and the physicality on display of the running backs actually breaking tackles and slipping tackles, because let's face it, even in training camp, it's mostly two-hand touch, right? There's maybe a live period or two that Todd Bowles will do where you take a running back to the ground. But Liam Cohen is just like, no, we need to fix this, and we're going to fix it now. He's dedicating a lot of the offseason time to the offensive line with offensive line coach Kevin Carberry. And I like this approach because there are some things you can work on, and especially when it comes to zone blocking, that's a concert type block where you've got to have everybody moving the right direction at the right time. It's a timing based blocking scheme, and those are some things you can work on. And let's face it, they have to evaluate some offensive linemen. They're looking for that fifth offensive lineman, right? We know Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke, they're going to be staples at tackles. We know Graham Barton's going to have a place somewhere on this offensive line, the rookie first-round pick, and Cody Malk as well. And so are they looking for a left guard, or is Robert Hainsey going to rise up and be that fifth best lineman and maybe kick Barton to left guard to fill that hole? I don't know, but I like the fact that they're emphasizing what needs to be fixed the most this offseason, and that's the running game so far.
Yeah, and as you said, all those guys are going to factor in. It's really just what puzzle are you putting together? Who's that fifth spot? Is it a veteran? Is it, Elijah Klein, the sixth-round pick that somehow competes and gets a starting guard job, and Barton can stay at center, which Todd Bowles and Jason Light and Liam Cohen have kind of spoken about. But there's no question that the Bucs are really putting a lot of resources into fixing this running game. We'll talk about Rashad White a lot, but they obviously addressed it with Bucky Irving as well, which the Bucs brass is very excited about. They invested in the offensive line season after season after season, and even though there will be some new pieces, there is continuity down, and a strength of this offensive line is on the outside. So for the past couple of years, they've been addressing the outside part. Now it's time to put it all together, let that cement dry, if you will, and really be a badass group up front, because that's what the Bucs had in 2020. That's why, as you wrote about not too long ago, a big reason why Tom Brady came to Tampa Bay back in the day was not just because of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, a wide receiver, but also Tom Brady does not want to run around a lot. He was 45 years old. He didn't want to get hit, so he wanted to go to a good offensive line. And that Super Bowl winning offensive line, as the Bucs have gone from Brady to now Baker Mayfield, there's obviously Tristan Wirfs, your golden piece right there, but everything else is new. And a lot of good offensive lines, you have the young and up-and-coming guys, which they're trying to establish with Cody Mauch and hopefully Grant Barton as a first-round pick.
Right.
Obviously, when you draft them in the first round, you have those expectations. And then you got to find that sweet spot with veteran players that aren't like too old, where they're over the hill, where the Bucs kind of had with Matt Filer last season when it didn't necessarily work out and injuries hurt him. So you got the young and up. Really, the whole room is young and up and coming. Even Gedeke going into year 3. It's really just Tristan Wirfs who's the one mainstay veteran with a couple of new veterans that were signed this offseason.
Yeah, and I think, too, one of the things that the Bucs wanted to do is get better along the offensive line. And certainly you look at the draft, they do like Klein. They feel that he might be a little bit of a day 3, sleeper guy in the 6th round. He's their type of offensive lineman. He's tough. He's physical. He's nasty. He's got a wide square base, as the new offensive line coach Kevin Carberry said, and he's got enough movement ability. He might be a factor this year or maybe next year. Maybe he needs a year in the weight room to get a little stronger, get a little bigger. We'll find out sooner rather than later whether he can be in play this year. But he might be a player that is a surprise that gets in there with Sua Opeta, and who's a big man, 39 bench presses of 225 pounds at the combine a couple years ago. And Ben Bredesen, another guy, is shorter arms, but this is a picture of him coming out with the Ravens, where he played before he was a New York Giant. But I mean, he's no stranger to the weight room either. So they wanted bigger guys up front. That was something Liam Cohen said, that when he looked at the film, is we got to get bigger up front. We just have to get some bigger guys. And it's not just the new players, Matt. It's also Robert Hainsey getting bigger. It's also Cody Mauch getting bigger. And that's one thing Mauch told Pewter Report right before the end of the season is he's like, man, I'm hitting the weight room. I'm going to be, the shadow of Luke Gedeke and Tristan Wirfs, and I'm going to get in here. And I think they really wanted him to transform his body like Alex Kappa did, go from that, tall, angular, lean, svelte, yet strong, athletic left tackle body at Humboldt State. And we saw Kappa really morph into a guard body with a bigger butt, bigger thighs, glutes, just a bigger core strength, bigger torso. And I think you're going to see that now with Mauch going from North Dakota State left tackle and really developing into a bigger guard body, and not have that left tackle physique that he had last year at 6'5", about maybe 310.
Yeah, it feels like the whole Bucs offensive line has hit the weight room this offseason. If some of you Bucs fans out there watched Tampa Bay, they put on the Bucs website Grant Barton's first 24 hours at the Bucs facility. Well, he met and ran into not only Tristan Wirfs, but Robert Hainsey.
Hainsey does look bigger, doesn't he?
In there as well. And of course, we know how much Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke love to work out together as a unit, because they are units themselves. But Tristan Wirfs is wearing a shirt that says Bench Row Records. Of course, that's a play on Death Row Records, which was Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre back in the day. But what Tampa Bay had going for them on the offensive line is they did have an athletic group. We know Tristan Wirfs jumping out of the pool, how great that was. Gedeke, a guy that used to play tight end, obviously is a little bit better on his feet coming out of the draft a couple of seasons ago than some other offensive linemen. Right. Cody Mauch was the guy sprinting down the field with Rashad White on that screen pass touchdown against the 49ers. They had athletic guys, and you need athletic offensive linemen in this Buccaneers offense. But you also need the strength. You need the size. You need the muscle. And yes, they have it in areas, especially at tackle. I don't think they had it as much on the interior offensive line, and that's why we've been talking about that it's such a weakness. But you get Hainsey hitting the gym in, face it, a really important year for Robert Hainsey. You got Mauch, again, a whole season under his belt, a whole offseason just to work on getting bigger. And Grant Barton, who we met him in person, we saw him in person, pretty big guy, coming out of college. And the other people you mentioned, Opeta, Bredesen, things of that nature, you're going to have, whichever they figure it out at guard or center with Grant Barton, where he's going to play, you're going to have Hainsey, Opeta, Bredesen, a lot more guys in the mix than even last year, where it was just kind of, again, Filer, who had a lot of injury issues, and Stinney, who was limited in what he can do. You really just had two guys competing for that job. Now you add an extra body in there, guys that may be a little more suitable for this offense in particular. Yeah. And everything's got to work out, but this could go from a weakness last year to a strength of the team this season. Yeah. Things got to work out in certain ways, and Cody Mauch, I think, is a huge piece of that puzzle.
I agree.
Man, there's a lot to like about this group if they can put it together.
A lot to like about this new coaching staff. And yes. If you joined the show yesterday, you were introduced to a lot of these new coaches. There's, really the only holdovers are Thad Lewis, the quarterback's coach, Skip Pete, the running backs coach. Everybody else is new. Justin Peel at tight ends, Kevin Carberry at offensive line, Brian McClendon at wide receivers. Of course, the new play caller is Liam Cohen, Josh Grizzard, the new pass game coordinator, and a new special teams coach, Thomas McGahee. So we spent a lot of time with those guys on Monday, about 2 hours total. We talked about the passing game yesterday, the running game today. Let's get on with some clips, Matt. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think one of the most newsworthy things was Liam Cohen talking about what kind of went wrong with the run game last year. And he was not here. He was not the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. He was over at Kentucky, and obviously he spent time with the Rams in his career. I want to preface it before this video. This is not him crapping on the bad run game that the Bucs had last year. And these aren't shots at Dave Canales.
Right.
It's just what he saw on film and what he's going to do to get better looks for the Buccaneers.
Yeah. Some diversity in terms of giving these guys different ways of hitting blocks, whether it's the mid zone, the wide zone, the tight zone, duo, gap with pullers, perimeter runs. Defenses are too good to say that we're just going to line up and run a few runs. We have to give these guys a toolbox, and also that goes along with giving them multiple plays in the huddle, and that might be 2, it might be 3 options to be able to get to in terms of what the defense is presenting. Well, let's change the math and run away from numbers, or gain the numbers back in our favor. And if we get man coverage, well, let's get to a man beater. And those are things that it ultimately puts a lot more on the guys, but I think they were ready for it.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show, but it's really just not even evening the playing field, making the playing field better for you in this situation for the Buccaneers, putting more on the plate of the Bucs, and particularly Baker Mayfield, but not staying as stubborn as they have been in the past. And so when he said like diversity of blocking and the numbers game and the math game, it was what we've talked about on the show, that many times the Bucs just ran into situations where Rashad White was dead to rights before he even touched the football, really, in some situations, because he's running into these 8-9 man boxes that even Barry Sanders or Walter Payton would have difficulty trying to get through.
No, you're right, and I think too. Again, it's not a shot at Dave Canales. It's just what the film says, and I just don't think this is all on Dave Canales either. I mean, Harold Goodwin was the run game coordinator last year, and we mentioned yesterday on the show, Buccaneers weren't exactly choked up seeing those guys go. And Joe Gilbert, they felt like they needed a change along the offensive line. That the message maybe had grown stale. Tampa Bay has been a tremendous pass protection team. It's not like these are bad coaches. It's just
100%.
The run game's not their forte. And go back to Bruce Arians being, what was his moniker, right? The quarterback whisperer, right?
Yeah.
Who was the offensive coordinator under Bruce Arians? A quarterback. And Byron Leftwich, right? So this was a pass-heavy attack, and sure, why not? You've got Tom Brady, you've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and Rob Gronkowski, and you add Antonio Brown. The running game was a little bit of an afterthought, but as it transitioned from Bruce Arians to Todd Bowles, well, Todd Bowles wants to get more balanced, and there is no Gronk, and there is no Brady anymore, and there is no Antonio Brown to throw to. And so they wanted to kind of lean a little bit more on the ground game to help Todd Bowles' defense stay a little fresher, right? And and have a little bit more juice in the fourth quarter because they're not run down with 3 and outs and back out there on the field. So the common denominator, really, I think, and we'll see, is not so much losing Ali Marpet and Ryan Jensen, but offensive line coaches. Now, I like what Kevin Carberry had to say, and I think that Liam Cohen's going to bring more running plays to the table. And if you're going to bring more running plays to the table, you need to install those plays and take the time during OTAs to get these run plays installed so that when you've got a situation that by formation, you might run these 3 plays under Dave Canales. Well, in this formation, this personnel grouping, you might run 6 plays under Liam Cohen. It's a little bit harder to figure out. And with Baker Mayfield now being the secret weapon, with him being able to audible, maybe you flip the play and you run it to the left instead of the right, and you put Chris Godwin in motion from right to left, and all of a sudden you've got numbers, right? And you're running into a more favorable situation than running into a heavy number situation on defense where, as you mentioned, Matt, some of these running plays were DOA, dead on arrival.
I don't think there's anything wrong with making this offense a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
I mean, to get back to Bruce Arians, there was a narrative for quite the while that Bruce Arians needed a veteran quarterback to play with because his passing and offensive concepts were difficult to figure out. And I think that's why you saw kind of early on in the Arians era with wide receivers, there would be a little bit of miscommunication, especially that first game of the season against the Saints when the Bucs won 2020, because they give a lot of options to their receivers. If the defense is doing this, you go deep versus if the defense is in this coverage, you stop and you post up and you get ready for the pass. And
Brady had a couple picks, including a pick 6 in his first game.
Exactly. So you have a Bucs group, again, led by Evans and Godwin, that dealt with complex passing situations. I don't really foresee why this group, especially with young guys that are going to be learning any new offense anyway, why they can't learn a complex run situation. And speaking of Chris Godwin, we'll talk about Kevin Carberry in a second too, some of the things he said, because we do have video of it. But Godwin is going to play a big role in the running game sense as well, Scott, because with them moving him back into the slot, you need a wide receiver that's going to be physical and that can block. And Chris Godwin has been anointed this guy for the Buccaneers offense.
For sure. And, not only will this, I think, help the Buccaneers in terms of, just having him back in the slot as a receiver, because that's going to help not only his production, because I think we all agree he's better there than he was out wide when Dave Canales kind of flipped the script and put him out there. But he's also better as a blocker, right? At the point of attack, whether it's taking on a linebacker, chipping a safety, and then you throw in the motion that we're going to see a lot more of in the shifts from Liam Cohen's offense, and really you can run behind Chris Godwin, who's a very good blocker on the what I would call the skinny perimeter, right? Where if they're on a bunch formation, you kind of put him as the tip of the spear out there, and maybe run a toss to Bucky Irving or Rashad White, and get this guy blocking a corner one-on-one. And and that's there's a lot that you can do with Chris Godwin closer to the formation in the slot than out wide. And I just like the move. And Brian McClendon was a big fan. I think he even said yesterday that Chris Godwin in the slot gives you an extra gap in the run game. He's an extra blocker in there, and he's a very effective one.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of having the 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end setup versus some of the other setups you have, because you can line up the guys differently, but run still the same kind of concepts and the same kind of plays. It just has more of a different look to the defense that's playing against you. But of course, you need guys like Chris Godwin if you want to have the ability to do so. So Godwin will be very important in several ways this season. Also very important, we love getting super chats on the Pewter Report podcast. So thank you to Mikey Moneybags for this $1.99 super chat. Remember, if you super chat us, we get to you right away. I see another super chat in here that we'll get to right after. And we're happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about when you super chat us. So thanks again, Mikey Moneybags, who says, is rookie minicamp this week? Yes, Mikey, it is. We're very excited about Friday and Saturday. are the first 2 Bucs rookie mini camps. Pewter Report will be out there both days. We'll do a podcast actually on Friday afternoon covering all from day 1 of Bucs rookie mini camp. We'll get to watch practice. We'll talk to Todd Bowles after as well. So that should be a fun show on Friday as we get to watch some Bucs football.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And also on Saturday, we're not going to have a podcast on Saturday, but we will have a recap of Saturday's day 2 Bucs rookie minicamp practice on our Monday show. So as if Monday wasn't a great day to watch the Pewter Report podcast anyways, with roll call at 4:20, you're also going to get our analysis of what happened on Saturday. And we're looking forward to next week's shows as well.
Absolutely. Thanks to Jeff the Champ for this $4.99 super chat, who says, just wanted to say thank you for all y'all do. The draft offseason coverage has been especially
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those kind words, Jeff. Yeah, we try to bring you the best Bucs coverage that we can all year round, 24/7, 365. So if you're new to this channel, if you just started getting into the Buccaneers, maybe you're a Baker Mayfield fan, so you're paying attention to Tampa a little bit more, whatever the case may be. We don't just cover the Bucs in season. We have stories and articles out every single day, content constantly on our Pewter Report TV channel, our YouTube channel. And yeah, we always got stuff in the works at pewterreport.com. So we're covering the Buccaneers all year around. And as you said early on, Scott, some coaches are still getting familiar with the Buccaneers because they are first-time coaches in Tampa, not first-time coaches overall, but
right.
It's their first year in Tampa. And Kevin Carberry, the guy that we've been talking about a little bit, will be the one manning this offensive line as the O-line coach. And it is a little bit tough at this time of the year. Like we talked about, it's flag football. It's geared towards the pass. There's no physicality, which is the name of the game for offensive linemen. I mean, How else are you going to get better unless you're blocking the guy in front of you and trying to do a good job? But with that said, Carberry can still go to the tape. He can still watch his guys on a daily basis. And he's trying to find things that already he can tweak and make adjustments to. And here's how he responded to finding those things that he could fix.
When you look at what you have to work with and what's happened, say, last year, are there some easy identifiable fixes that you and Liam can do to make some immediate gains?
Sure. I would say, every year is a new year as it relates to putting your run game together, and that's something we've gone through this offseason, and we're putting together now in terms of laying the groundwork and foundation for how we want to run the football in the fall. Every team in the league is trying to find better ways to run the football, and even those teams that finished at the top of the league, rushing, be it yards per carry, yards per game, they might have had a 10-yard run on a certain play, and then they go back and watch in the winter and say, okay, well, hey, that was a 10-yard game, but if you look at our process over results, hey, we could have blocked this better. How can we always execute this combination block better, this one-on-one block better, and find better ways to do it? And then finding different ways to improve or identifying things. It's just like, okay, well, let's find out what our guys do well as it relates. Let's lay the groundwork and foundation of what we want to be. All right, find out what these guys do best, and then veer in that direction as the season goes along.
And then, of course, he gets to work with some great players such as Tristan Wirfs, who's going to be, or I shouldn't say is going to be, he's already an all-pro. Could get his first one on the left side this year as he goes into year 2 as a left tackle. And remember, that was a little bit of an adjustment for him. But he just kind of talked about getting the guys ready at this time of the year and getting to work with Wirfs and Gedeke and the rest of this group.
Absolutely.
Being physical in the run game, but you got to kind of wait to see what you have there a little bit.
Right. So, you could see traits, you could see things that show up on film, just even being in this division last year, just seeing these guys on tape throughout the course of the year, and then studying them this offseason, and then watching them here on the grass last week, and then this morning, you find what guys can do well just in shorts and T-shirts and how well they move and how they can adjust and how they move, and you see those things, and then as you move along and judging what you've seen before, certain runs that are similar that we want to execute this fall, okay, and you get a vision for what guys do well and what they may need to improve on. Well, certainly, I would say this about all these guys, that you like them all as men, and they're great teammates. Just my time being with them the last 3 weeks, this being the 4th week, in the meeting room, just being around them in the building. Tristan, been here all winter since I got here. So has Luke. Cody and Rob have been here up and down a lot, and it's just been great getting to know those guys. And you can tell they're great teammates, great leaders, and they're the right kind of guys that you want in your room.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Cody Mack. See, look at that physique. He looks like a tackle, man. I want to see this guy get bigger and stronger, and I really think that he has some real upside. I think I'm not going to say he's going to be in Ali Marpet's class as a Pro Bowler, but I think that he has a ceiling a little bit higher than Alex Kappa. And Kappa was a good player. Kappa, matter of fact, was the only Buccaneer during the Super Bowl season to not give up a sack, and parlayed that success into a very lucrative contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. So this is a player that got better every year, and really by that third, fourth year, he was a fine guard in the league. And I think Cody Mauch was on a similar track. If he can just get bigger and stronger, really believe that he could make a big jump and help this offensive line really get the ground game going.
Yeah, I think he brings way more. I shouldn't say way more, but he brings a fair amount of more athleticism than I think Kappa had. Now, Kappa had toughness. I mean, he played a whole freaking game with a broken arm. So you know that he brought toughness, and you obviously need that with an offensive lineman. But I think Mauch has a good deal of toughness as well with more athleticism. He's not afraid to get to the second level. He's not afraid to put a hat on a hat, get in your face, play that physical game while also having the athleticism to do it. I think he just had some, rookie growing pains that many rookies, especially on the offensive line, have in a season. So say he won every other battle, went 5 of 10, against offensive linemen, I think, or against the defensive linemen.
Yeah.
I think you'll see that number improve this year just based on experience, what he'll be asked to do, and overall that big size. If he does, get bigger, lean up, all the stuff that the Bucs are asking him to do and that he wants to do as well to make himself a better player. We saw what Luke Gedeke did stepping up from year 1 to year 2 and was great at offensive tackle. Mauch gets to stay at the same position, but then also, get a whole offseason to bulk up.
Yeah.
If he could take any type of step forward the way Gedeke did from 1 to 2, if Mauch can do that now, I mean, watch out for this group.
Yeah, and we didn't really get a definitive answer because I don't think they even know yet. They haven't even seen Graham Barton on the field, right? I mean, we'll see that in person on Friday. But John Spytek kind of alluded to, well, I like the idea of kind of having all 3 spots in the middle up for grabs and let competition, I don't know. I think you leave Cody Mauch at right guard. I think that he and Luke Gedeke really formed a nice 1-2 punch. They developed some chemistry. You saw the running game kind of take off in the second half of the season. And part of that was Rashad White doing a better job of reading his blocks and being more authoritative and decisive and quicker through the hole. But some of that too was Cody Mauch and Luke Gedeke really getting into a groove on that side of the ball. And I think Mauch also did a really good job pulling from right to left on some of those pulling plays. And I don't know. Listen, I'm not the offensive line coach. If they want to move him to the left side, it's not like Cody Mauch hasn't played on the left side of an offensive line before.
Right.
The left tackle, North Dakota State. Maybe he develops even better chemistry with Tristan Wirfs. Who knows? But I don't know. I think Gedeke and Mauch, they've got a little bit of a mauler instinct on that right side. And I wouldn't mess with that. I'd let Mauch kind of see what he can do in year 2 at that spot and just focus on finding a left guard.
I agree. I don't think everything needs to be changed about the offensive line. They've done a lot of moving parts. They will this year just with having Barton in and a new left guard and potentially a new center. They had moving parts last year with Gedeke for the first time playing at right tackle at the NFL level and Tristan Wirfs moving over to the left side. You've done a lot of the moving parts. Have a little bit of stability. And Liam Cohen actually spoke about as well with Barton. What's the plan at center and guard? And this was his response to it.
Yeah, I think that, you give some of those guys, you give Graham and Hainsey an opportunity to compete at the center position. You give a bunch of guys really the opt to compete at guard. I mean, we have, I think, done a great job this offseason with some of the additions that we've gotten in both in the free agency and in the draft. Opetta's done a phenomenal job. All those guys have competed.
Yeah, see that's the thing too is he mentioned Opetta, right?
Yeah,
and he He didn't mention anybody else. He said all those guys, but he mentioned Opeta, and I think that's really interesting. Sometimes it's what coaches say and don't say. Sometimes it's whoever has the top of mind, right?
Yeah.
Who's ever on top of mind. That's an area where I think right now Sua Opeta's penciled in as the starting left guard, and they haven't put the first pad on yet, so it doesn't really mean anything right now. But we'll see. I think this guy might be the leader heading into training camp at left guard, and we'll see where they go from there.
Yeah, they will have their choices. Just like if you want a Celsius energy drink, you'll have a number of choices because they have so many great flavors, and they continue to make new ones. What feels like almost every single day, but certainly, month after month, there's new flavors that come out. They really specialize in the vibe flavors as well, whether it's the Galaxy or the Cosmic Vibe. I love the Arctic Vibe. There's tons of great flavors over at Celsius. So if you've never had a Celsius before and you want to try one out, you need to know where to pick one up, or maybe you're in a new spot on vacation and you're not in a familiar area, so you want to go pick some up. Go to the Celsius store locator, punch in your address. It'll tell you the closest location where you can pick one up. Could be a 7-Eleven or a health and fitness store. A lot of notable places you're familiar with, or could also be a place that you may know called your bodega.
Bodega.
Once you keep going to your bodega and you're buying them, you like them, you want more, you can get more because you can buy them in bulk over on Prime. Go to Amazon, go to the Subscribe and Save. Get that variety pack because variety is the spice of life. You can have it sent to your places of residence whenever you want. Could be a week, quarterly, yearly, up to you. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of the Pewter Report podcast. Let's get to this super chat. Thank you to Black Gold 1999 with the 1999 super chat. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that very much.
It says, good afternoon, guys. Kind of off topic. That's okay. You super chat us. We're going to talk about it.
That's right.
Kind of off topic, but why do they rank us, talking about the Bucs, so low? And why do they feel like 19 other teams are better than Tampa when we were in first place in the division and made it to the second round of the playoffs?
That's good. I would say don't fret about it too much. Just go to my bookie and put a lot of money on the Buccaneers and win a lot of money. That's what I did last year. Won a lot of money on that really low over under, which was 6.5 last year. I killed that. I made a lot of money. And then right after they beat Green Bay, you kind of really felt like that 4-7 record was kind of in the rearview mirror. They were kind of, on their way, and that Atlanta game was going to be really big in terms of the division. And so I not only threw some money down on the Bucs winning the NFC at that point in time, and I got really good odds because at that time it looked like the Falcons or the Saints, not the Bucs, were going to win the NFC South. And then I also threw some money down on the playoffs. So the Buccaneers hit the trifecta for me. They won the division, they made the playoffs, and they also hit the over. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. This team is, they're used to being the underdog. They thrive in that role. I think they're comfortable with this. They know that it doesn't matter. They love proving people wrong. This is just a little off-season chip on their shoulder. It's going to be used as motivation all through camp in the preseason and the start of the season. So look at the positives of it. Make some money. Allow this team to thrive in the underdog role, which they have. I know everybody wants the Buccaneers to be favorites and all that. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I do think with the Vegas odds makers, Matt, I've been thinking about this. They're looking at the 9-8 record.
Yes.
Right? They're looking at the 1-1 postseason record, right? And they're looking at, well, it took the Buccaneers to week 18 to win the division and keep Todd Bowles' job and all that. And that's all true. That is a fact. But you go back and rewind a little bit from that, and you look at just the last 8 games of the season. They were 6-2. They were one of the hottest teams in the league, including that playoff loss and including a loss to the Saints, right? That was it, those 2 losses. Otherwise, there's 6 wins in that stretch over 2 months. So I think that Vegas is focusing on the end result, which was the 9-8, 1-1 record in the playoffs, and not so much the process, which was that finish that gave the Glaziers and Jason Light the confidence to keep Todd Bowles, to re-sign Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Levante David, keep the band together, add some more to it, and build on that hot finish that they had last year.
You're absolutely right, Scott. So what I'll just add to my theory about all of this, if you look at last year when no one trusted the Bucs, why didn't they trust the Bucs? Well, Tom Brady left, and it really didn't matter who was going to come in for Tampa Bay. You don't have Tom Brady anymore, so you're not going to be a good football team. Right. That's what the others thought. And then it was, oh, well, they got Baker Mayfield. Baker, his career's done after Cleveland got rid of him, and we saw him bounce around to a couple other teams. But Baker proved a lot of people wrong, and that's why you shattered the Bucs going over 6.5 wins. That's why I shattered Mike Evans over 1,000 yards again, because his number was like at 875 on the year. That's why everyone doubted them a season ago. This year, and this was the Super Chat in the first place, so this year I think is kind of what you already talked about, where what did the Bucs do this offseason? They re-signed a lot of their own people. So then it became, okay, they got their group back, but they only won 9 games. And then you look at Atlanta getting Kirk Cousins, and they figured out what they want to do at quarterback. Mm-hmm. Well, if they're just going to be at 9 wins again, how much better can the Bucs be? But they're not factoring in things like the offensive line getting much better, which means the run game hopefully will get better. They're not factoring in Jordan Whitehead is back at safety for the Buccaneers, so the safety room is going to be so much better. They're not factoring in. They may even be thinking, I'm talking about national people, oh, well, the Bucs don't have Shaq Barrett anymore. Shaq Barrett wasn't a factor as an edge rusher for the Bucs last year. It was Yaya Diaby who didn't start until November. So it's those things that are getting overlooked when you take a gander at the big picture and say, oh, how much better are the Bucs going to be from 9 wins? So I think that kind of all factored in.
They also like this shiny new thing, right?
Yes.
Last year it was Derek Carr and the Saints. This year it's Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. So that's just kind of classic national media. Oh, look at the shiny new thing and all of that. So speaking of shiny new things, we got $1.99 here in form of Super Chat from Tampa 2. And he says, which draft picks were you most wrong about? I guess you're talking about the Buccaneers. Yeah. I would say, well, I mean, let's look at it. We were really high on Marshawn Kneeland, and I think the team was, until we found out some things after the pick that gave Braswell the edge over Kneeland. And we didn't know that he came in for a top 30 visit. Had we known that, might have changed a little bit of our forecasting and prognostication. Also, too, Matt, we had Chris Braswell going to the Bucs in the first round of our mock draft back in January. That's the dartboard throw mock, because there's no college all-star games yet. There's no testing. You don't know how the board kind of shakes out. And we saw Braswell at the Senior Bowl, kind of wanted to like him, but he had a so-so performance there. And you kind of thought, okay, he's not a first-round guy. He's more of a second-round guy. So I'd say him, Bucky, Irving. I think that they wanted to get a bigger back, and I think they fell in love a little bit with Bucky as a player, what he could do. He runs like a big back. I was told that they liked him as a big back at 5'9", 192 pounds, more than Braylon Allen, the running back from Wisconsin, who was about 230 pounds, because he didn't run that big for being a big guy. So I think those two guys, Ezra Klein, that was like that was out of left field. We had no idea that they liked him. Didn't really know much about him. He's from UTEP. So I think those are the 3 guys that kind of snuck up on us a little bit.
Yeah, Klein just didn't really know as much. So it's like, I can't be like, oh, this is a great pick by the Bucs. I think there's nice value if he does work out and he is a physical dude. I kind of interpreted the Super Chat in a different way of like former Bucs that got drafted and you thought, this is going to be a great fit for the Buccaneers. So for me, one guy, this is just how I interpret it. I don't think there's a wrong way to interpret it, but I was thinking of a guy that was like a later round pick, looked great in like OTAs and beginning of training camp. Jalen Darden, the wide receiver. Yeah. I thought he could have done something well in this offense, but then was afraid to get tackled and was not physical and didn't really work out as a kick returner. So he was a guy that came to mind for me.
So using that formula, I would say Quan Alexander, the 4th round pick out of LSU, linebacker. Look at the stat sheet. He just didn't do much. And he ended up being a better player than I thought he was going to come in from LSU. So I would say I was wrong about Quan Alexander. He was completely off the radar. A big surprise for me. And then I thought Kenny Bell, the receiver out of Nebraska, he looked fantastic in shorts. I mean, and that's kind of the fool's gold a little bit of OTAs. And sometimes these receivers, you mentioned Jalen Darden's one of them. Sometimes they look great, and then you put the pads on, and then they worry about getting hit across the middle, and then things change. They start making some business decisions, and their hands get a little shaky, and they slow down a little bit, and all of a sudden, they're off the team. So those are a couple guys that come to mind that I thought, based upon how they looked initially, or on draft day, they were better or worse than I thought in those two respects.
Well, Scott, we're 40 minutes into a show where we're talking about the ground game and running the football, and we've barely talked about the running backs. So I think it's about time to get into the likes of Rashad White and, of course, Bucky Irving this year. I want to start off with the video from Liam Cohen. He starts the video by talking about why they drafted Bucky Irving, what he liked about him that made the Bucs want to bring him to Tampa. And then it's actually a question that you asked about. It's something good that Bucky Irving does that they want to see more of from Rashad White. The video itself will explain what we're talking about.
Yeah, Bucky's he's pretty dynamic, where he gives us the ability in the run and pass game, right? The screen game, and then also from a special team standpoint and some of the return game as well. But Bucky's a guy that I'm actually pretty close with, the OC out at Oregon, Will, and he told me he was his favorite player that he's ever coached, and somebody that's just team first, will do anything and everything he's asked to do. From Chicago, tough kid, loved him when he came up on his visit. Just the type of kid that I think will fit in really well in this building. And the nice thing I like about Bucky is he gets to his top speeds early. Like when he accepts the handoff, he bursts and accelerates through the hole and can make people miss in space.
Along those lines, is that something that you're kind of wanting to see Rashad White do a little bit more of? He's known as to be a patient runner, sometimes too patient perhaps.
I mean, he has taken every detail that we've coached throughout this offseason and applied it. That is something that we've worked on and that we've been communicating to him and really to all the backs, is just we are fast to and fast through. And we receive the handoff. We want to be shot out of a cannon. With obviously having vision and patience goes along with it. That's not something I need to really coach. But he has been fantastic when it comes to the tracks, his responsibility, the landmark, and being shot out of a cannon in some of the run game that we have done so far in this phase.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, it starts right there, right? That the handoff and getting that and hitting the hole with authority. To me, that's everything for Rashad White, and he got better at that. He ran with a better sense of urgency towards the end of the season. I think once he got more comfortable with the scheme and where those holes were going to be. But Bucky Irving doesn't waste time either, man. He's not the fastest guy, but he gets to top speed really quickly. And I think that this could be a really good situation for Rashad White when he sees Bucky Irving hit the hole at full speed. Then that coaching point from, say, Skip Pete, where he says, "Rashad, did you see that? That's how I want you to do it," right? And I think once Rashad does that, he'll be more of a force, because once he gets into the open field, he's a special runner. I mean, he really is. He's a guy that has the ability to, once he gets to the second level, he's got really good vision, and he can make you miss. We've seen that on the screen passes. We've seen that in the receiving game. He even had a couple breakaway runs at the end of the season, and also too, when you are a bigger back, and he's the biggest back on the team at 220 pounds, this is Rashad from his rookie season, where number 29 going against DeMario Davis. It's don't slow down for contact, run through contact, right? Not run to it, run through it. And that's kind of what Liam Cohen has said. And I think that Skip Pete wants Rashad White to be a more physical, imposing back and run with more authority.
Yeah, and I don't want this to turn into like Rashad White slander. And I'm not saying like it is, but right. I think you look at, I think multiple people are at fault for the run game not working the past couple of seasons. Let's just talk about last year specifically, because it was a different kind of offense. And Rashad White certainly deserves some of the blame, but I don't think all of the blame. I think it can go to a number of people. The criticism of Rashad White in his career so far has been a little bit too much patience, just find the hole and go. And, I think in years past, we've seen, like when Le'Veon Bell, not when he was with the Bucs, but Le'Veon Bell in his prime, he did it so perfectly of waiting for that type of hole to open and then hit it, and bam, you got a great running play. But that Steelers offense was also different than what Tampa Bay was trying to do since Rashad White has been with the Buccaneers. So Rashad can be physical. He can make guys miss. But I kind of like the idea and the fact, and it's what Liam Cohen was talking about, is that it almost feels as if because the notion is going to be speed, they're going to coach Rashad less to like worry about where the hole is and just pick a hole and just and figure it out from there. And that's the beauty of zone blocking as well. Is sure you would love it where there's 3 holes open on one side. It may just be one, but Rashad, obviously, when you're an NFL player, you can identify and hit the hole faster than in some other situations, which I do think Rashad White will be able to do. And then, of course, having another guy in, a younger player just drafted that, at the end of the day, everyone's playing for their job. Rashad still wants to be the starter. And I don't think him not being the starter is in question for the time being. It should be Rashad's job because Rashad got a lot done even with the issues overall in the backfield. But Skip Pete also talked about what Rashad can do better, and this is what he said.
I would probably say the number one thing is that he's got to run with more physicality in the run game, more authority. He agreed, but he did a good job last year. I thought he had a pretty good season, but there's areas that he can improve, areas that everybody can improve. He obviously got better as the season went on, so it was good to see that. But you talk about, young guys coming to the league, they obviously have an opportunity to play early and then have some success, but then, you're going to have downs too. But you got to find ways to fight through that and continue to work on your craft. I think you can't do it all at once. I think you got to kind of pick and choose one thing a day and try to master that and go to the next thing. By the end of the week, hopefully you got it improved a little bit for that week. And we talk about that all the time, and I think he's continuing to do that. No, I think he did. I thought he did get improved in that aspect. But I think early on, I think his style was a little bit different in his mindset of more hesitation and then hitting the hole. Where in this scheme that we have, it's more just set your track and hit the hole. So, the timing of the blocking as far as the timing with the back kind of meshes together, and that's the most important thing that we got to get mastered. And that comes from everybody being on the same page and understanding exactly what we're trying to get accomplished.
I think that's one of the things that Bucky Irving brings to the table is when you look, he gets the handoff, it's instant acceleration, right? And he's not the fastest guy. He does have some breakaway runs, but at the same time, he's a 4-5 guy and 4-5 guy. And it doesn't have to be the breakaway runs. You don't need the 70-yarder in the NFL. The 17-yarder is the more realistic big run. Mm-hmm. And I think that he gets that. And the reason why he can break so many tackles is because he is going top speed. Mm-hmm. So I really think whether Bucky Irving's in the game and picking up yards for the Buccaneers or he's on the sidelines and watching Rashad White, that he'll be a complimentary back that White can actually learn from. And I think Rashad's going to teach Bucky a lot too about being a running back in the NFL. He's one of the best pass catching running backs in the league, and Bucky Irving's no slouch either when it comes to catching the ball. So I think they are two backs that are built differently but have very similar games. And I think that if Rashad can run with the sense of urgency that Bucky does, he's just going to be a much better back, and you're going to see that yards per carry average back at over 4 yards this year.
And Rashad White's a great teammate, too.
Yeah.
So I don't think there'll be any type of rift or divide or anything like that.
Correct.
In the locker room. Because, Rashad White was one of the first guys to say as well, when he came in, when he got drafted, he's like, I plan on being the starter. And everyone's like, whoa, like, how could you be so disrespectful to Leonard Fournette? And Leonard Fournette was like, no, that's the mentality you should have, like, coming into the league. And now the shoe, a little bit, is like kind of on the other foot for Rashad, and we'll kind of see how he responds. And I do think that this duo will eventually work together where they're both their own weapons for the Bucs, and we look at it as a great unit and not just RB1 and RB2. Well, I'll get to the super chat from Drew, but real quick, let's just play what Skip Pete had to say about Bucky Irving.
I think he's a young back that's versatile. He can play on all 3 downs. Sudden, good change of direction. and obviously can catch the ball out of the backfield, create big plays. That's the thing that probably excited me the most. Natural knack to where they run through contact, not to contact. And his ability to bounce off people was something that you noticed quite a bit when you watch him play. For a guy that's not real big. But I just think he's a guy that has a unique feel and doesn't really take a direct hit. You know, he'll take glancing blows, but not really too many, direct hits as he runs with the football or catches it out of the backfield.
How much of that is here and instinct, and how much of that is physical ability?
I think most of the physicality of anything we do in football is mental.
All right, let's get to this super chat from Drew 00. Thanks, Drew, for the $5 super chat, who says, thanks, PR, for all the awesome coverage. Very off topic. Again, totally fine.
Yeah.
But Scott, can we get some kind of 30 for 30 or best moments episode for your 30th year?
That would be tough because there's a lot of great moments we've had on the Pewter Report podcast from Matt and I, dating all the way back to Trevor and Mark Cook and myself on the audio podcast before even going on YouTube. So I'm one of these guys that I don't get terribly sentimental. I'll probably do something on the website in story form about my top 30 moments or something. I've got something kind of like, the wheels are spinning. I'm thinking about something. May 19th is the date. That'll be my official 30th anniversary at Pewter Report. I graduated from Kansas State May 13th, drove to Florida like 3 days later, and started working at Buccaneer magazine, as it was known back in the day, on, I want to say it was Friday, May 19th. So it's coming up, and it's going to be a fun year, and I've witnessed 2 Super Bowls in the first 30 years, and hopefully there's some more Super Bowls sooner rather than later. I had to wait a long time for the first one from 1995 to 2002. They're fun, not just for the fans, but also for the media to cover. So I appreciate that, Drew. Probably nothing for the podcast. I'll probably do some Pewter Pulse episodes about some of my, most fun moments or interesting moments of my first 30 years on the beat. But probably not a 30 for 30. We'll leave that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment, Scott, for sure. But yeah, I think part of the thing is like, there's just so much that's went on, different variations of the podcast, different variations of Pewter Reporters, and so many stories along the way. I'm sure we can reminisce on a couple of things. I also think it would be great for the commenters if they had any specific like memories or bits or things like that.
That might be a fun show to do. We might do a fun show, but I'd rather almost have you guys drive it with questions that I answer.
For sure.
Comment. So we'll do that. In a week or two. I'm open to it. I don't want to do anything that's like too programmed. I'm kind of like a windshield guy rather than the rearview mirror guy. I always like to look forward rather than backwards in my life. So, but yeah, I like the idea of having like an open-ended show where we just talk about, whatever you guys want to talk about. Ask me questions, super chat, off the record stuff if you want. Yeah. It's always your show, Pewter people. We come up with some topics, but you guys end up driving it. We love your comments and questions. Yeah,
I think for sure.
I will say one thing, if I can. I just turned 52, April 23rd. And folks, I got to admit, I'm actually feeling really good. Sometimes, old age gets you down a little bit, but I've been going to see Christopher Lugo at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. You probably heard me a couple years ago talking about testosterone treatment. I started it and it was fantastic, and I had to stop it because it was like really ridiculous in terms of the price. It's not that way. It doesn't have to be expensive. And Christopher Lugo's got some fantastic, well-priced options that will really kind of blow your mind. So if you're tired of feeling like another number in the waiting room, at Bay Area Modern Medical Center in Tampa, they believe that you deserve personalized care that puts your health and well-being first. Meet Christopher Lugo, PA, with over 24 years of medical expertise. As a primary care physician, he's dedicated to your overall health, but that's not all. He specializes in weight loss, anti-aging, and hormone replacement therapy, including testosterone treatments. So men, listen up. Testosterone treatments can be affordable. Don't let old age slow you down. We tend to typically lose testosterone as we age. It's a natural function of us as we get older, but you can reclaim your vitality and get back to feeling great. So turn back the clock with a consultation at Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Visit BAMMC.com to explore the range of testosterone and weight loss treatments. And the other thing I'll mention is Christopher practices concierge medicine. That means no more waiting rooms, no more rushing through appointments. Imagine a doctor that takes the time to go over your extensive lab results, discuss diet and exercise plans with you, and also provide a personalized vitamin and supplement recommendations to optimize your health. Same-day appointments also available for your convenience. Don't just take my word for it. Go to BAMMC.com and see for yourself. Book your appointment today. That's Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Give them a call at 1-844-789-2266. Bay Area Modern Medical Center, where your health is the top priority.
Of course, we talked to tight ends coach Justin Peel as well. And it's always interesting with the tight end because they're part of the passing game. They're also part of the running game as well. And as it pertains to the running game, I think one of the biggest knocks on the whole group is that just they're not the best at blocking. I think that's obvious if you watch a lot of that. But obviously, Justin Peel's coming in. He's tasked with improving that group. Now, maybe the fact that the Bucs going from three, or now they will now be going to 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end, less tight ends on the field, less they're going to ask of the tight end to run block. But just Justin Peel's overall thoughts about getting this tight end room to block better.
Game is that in part due to fatigue when Cade's out there playing 98%, or is it just a technique thing that you can help apply?
I think it's a lot of it's everything you just said, and I think it's again, you have to remember how young these guys are. You're coming from college where a lot of times you're not asked to do it, and then you're going. They're still developing. Kids are coming out so early these days that they're still developing. They're still getting stronger, and then there is some technique stuff that you need to work on. And again, he's only going into his 3rd year, and it takes some time to get that down. You're going against. There's some very good defensive players that you're going to face, especially in this division, that you've got to have your technique right. You got to have some good strength. You got to an understanding of where you got to be and when you got to be there, that type of deal. And again, a lot of that just comes with experience. It comes with reps, which he's gotten a lot of, and I thought he got better as the year went on. But there's always in everything, doesn't matter year 3 or year 10, you're always going to have room to improve with just little things. You're not going to see the growth as much as you get further on into your career, but there's always things that you're going to improve on.
Yeah, that's good stuff, and I think that his blocking prowess at the NFL level and how he's been able to teach that, I think that was the missing element. Not knocking John Van Dam, but maybe he's more adept in the passing game. We saw Cade Otton really emerge as a receiver, especially in the postseason. 8 catches, 89 yards against the Eagles, a touchdown against the Lions. I think he ended up with 4 or 5 touchdowns last year. Showed a lot of improvement as a receiver. Now let's get the running game going with the blocking from the tight ends, maybe being the X factor. I think Justin Peel is going to be a big addition right there. Folks, when it comes to getting the addition that you need, when it comes to real estate, right, you're going to want to have this guy on your team. So whether you draft him, whether you sign him, whether you trade for him, get Eric Gross on your team and trade in your mortgage. So you can give Eric Gross a call at 513-907-4271. He's the official realtor of Pewter Report. And he knows the Tampa area like the back of his hand. He's a Tampa native, an avid Pewter Report reader. His father was stationed at MacDill Air Force Base. And he and his team at the Eric Gross Group, well, they've done hundreds of transactions in this crazy real estate market. They've got experience for all types of situations. It takes a full team effort to win in football. It also takes a full team effort to win in real estate. So make sure that you're visiting housesinfla.com. That's the official website of the Eric Gross Group in the eXp Realty group. And you can check out their inventory. You can also check out their listing of open houses. And you can also find out more information on their Facebook and Instagram pages at Eric Gross Group. So give Eric a call, 513-907-4271. Talk a little Tampa Bay football. Have the conversation start there. Once you get to know Eric, I think you're going to like what he can do for you in terms of either helping you buy another house or sell your house. So no matter where you are in your home ownership journey, you're going to feel welcome with the Eric Gross Group, the official realtor of Pewter Report.
So make sure
Matt,
Yeah.
I was going to say real quick, the league, they may be releasing the schedule on Thursday. Whenever they do, we'll have a show that night. And sometimes the league will give a little bit of notice. Sometimes they won't. So whether it's Thursday or whether it's next week, we'll have that Bucs schedule analysis show. And so just kind of stay tuned for that. You can follow us on Pewter Report on X and Facebook and Instagram, and we'll have information there in terms of when that particular episode will be. We'll have a show tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And we'll keep an eye on whether they're going to have the schedule release. If they do release the schedule on Thursday, we won't have a show tomorrow. We'll just have that show Thursday, and then the Bucs rookie minicamp show on Friday. Or we'll talk about the Bucs schedule next week if they end up releasing it. So we're kind of at the mercy of the league. But right now, Matt, take it away. Tell us how they can join the almost 14,000 subscribers.
Yeah, we're almost at 14K, so please help us get to that. But yeah, follow us on our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram over at Pewter Report. If you like our articles, if you like the videos we put up from the press conferences like yesterday, you can find that all on our social media at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please subscribe. We're almost at 14K. Which would be great to get to ASAP. We do the podcast. We have live streams. We got content up there all the time. So Pewter Report TV, please like, subscribe, leave a comment on this video as well once it's done. And that's going to do it for us on today's show. More episodes coming this week, so stay tuned for all of that. But I'll do it for us. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.